Hey guys, welcome to the second webinar of the Making Videos series. We are just about ready to start. We're just waiting for Jack to sit down. So once Jack has sit down, we'll just run through the introduction about what we're going to be talking about today, and as well as that, just introducing ourselves again for people who didn't see the previous webinar or don't know who we are exactly. So I'll start with myself while Jack's sitting down. I am David Markunis. So just change the slides here. So that's the two of us. I'm David Markunis. I'm the multimedia producer for SpunOut.ie, which means I just do all the social media and videos for them. Whereas Jack is the deputy director. So if you'd like to tell us about what you do.
Yes, I'm the deputy director, formerly multimedia producer. So that's why I'm here. And I guess my job is to make sure everyone's is doing their job, I guess, in a way, as well as support everyone in there and the content team, and help out making the videos and writing the articles that we do. Yeah.
Cool. Right. So we'll just introduce the topic for today. So in the last webinar we talked about all the pre-production stages of filming, so just getting an idea, realising your idea and making it into a script, and also planning for the shoot day, doing some storyboarding and stuff like that. So the second webinar is more so of the actual shooting of the day, so we'll be talking about what you should do on the shoot day, how you should set up. So we'll go into some specifics like the lighting, your camera and settings, and as well as your set design. So I suppose we'll get into it. We don't have we'll get into it now.
Yeah.
So we'll start with set design.
Yes, great.
So set design is really all around us. If you look at any sort of film content, so like what we're on right now, is, as I said, no matter how basic or advanced it is, it's set design is a great way to show off your own creativity and your personality when you're making videos. So that can be just a matter of like shooting a video in your room, because your room is technically an extension of you. So a good set design is really important, I think, for video production. It just keeps the attention. Like we see some of like the most major video producers ever, one of them, whether it be YouTube, like vloggers or anything, they have amazing set design, whether that be they film in really nice places or just have a nice set up. What do you think of set design? Like how would you find it?
Well, it's the first step. Before you turn on a camera or turn on a microphone or anything like that, you have to make sure that what's in front of the camera, apart from you, is somewhat, it's a difference between having some fairy lights in the background and some nice colours, or all the you should put as much focus on the out of focus parts as you should put on the in focus parts, I guess.
Yeah. Like we have some examples here, so we'll just we'll go into the first one here. So this is a guy called Philip DeFranco. Most of you probably know him before. He's sort of the news guy for YouTube. So if you have a look at his set, you can see, first of all, there's a bunch of different colours that just pop out in your face, and as well as that, you can see that everything on like in the background seems interesting and is sort of related to his personality. And then we see like another complete different idea of set design with Zoella. She's much more warm, like fairy light, as you were saying, sort of tone a Christmas tree in the background. That may seem very simple or complicated depending on who you ask, but realistically it's just a matter of finding some nice backdrops that you think will be interesting to someone.
It's just a matter of putting some thought into it, really, because it's just a matter of putting thought into it, because it frames you. It frames if you're on camera. I mean, we're kind of talking about it in terms of you talking to a camera, but I mean, it makes all the difference if you want to do an extreme example is if you wanted to do some sort of film that's from the set in the 1950s or 1960s, and you have modern cars driving around, that's an extreme example, but set design, it frames what's actually happening in the for the character or for you on screen.
Yeah, I find that it really immerses you into like watching something, because if you're watching something with bad set design and just a combination of other factors like bad framing and stuff, it just, you lose interest very fast. Like the person could be speaking about some great things or have some great ideas, but you'll just like subconsciously lose interest. And I feel like our brains are sort of set up to like look at bright stuff and just be like, I want to pay attention to that. So yeah, like another great example is Casey Neistat. Like his set is very unique, as his office is. It's definitely out there. I'm not sure like if it's in reach within other people, but the idea remains the same. It's always an extension of someone's personality if you're doing like a vlog, but if you're doing a narrative piece, then you try to set it up to make it like, so it's like the character and it relates to them, whether that be, like you said, in shooting a 1950s or 60s film and they have like the period suits and all the storefronts look the right way.
I think that's a great example of what you're saying about it being an extension of them as well, extension of the person. Like that's the best example. I mean, it's just like, you think Casey Neistat, well, I don't know, but like it depends if you watch him or not, but for me, if I think Casey Neistat, I think the Casey Neistat studio, because it's so unique and it's so him. Like it's like your home when you're watching him, and then when he's gone from there, it's like his little base, and you know where he is or what his style is when he's there.
Yeah, no, it's such a major thing, and it doesn't have to be extensive. Like I mean, these are sort of like, especially Casey is a very big example, but
so for the Franco's as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, it doesn't have to be anything major. It could be once you set up your room nicely, and like, I think room, like your bedroom, is sort of an extension of you as is. So like, it doesn't make like, you can film in your room nicely enough once you frame it right and you have good lighting. Like, I mean, then it's a very personal sort of thing, especially if you're in your bedroom, that's sort of your space. For narrative, same thing sort of applies, like built around the character.
And if anyone has any questions around anything that we're saying here at the minute, post them up in the chat, and we have in the background Heather and Alva as well listening, and they can pass on any questions they have to us. But you talked about framing there, and that leads us nicely on to our next section.
Yeah, so we're going to move into your camera and filming. So your camera is like the main component. Without camera, you can't really film anything. Whether that be like you filming with your phone, or that be a really expensive cinema camera like a red camera, you know, the principle remains the same. So there is just some basic settings that apply to all cameras, like that's just like the principle of how cameras work. It doesn't matter if you have a cheap flip phone or if you have a really expensive camera again. And those would be the aperture, the shutter speed, and like the ISO. So that looks very intimidating when you look at it initially, but broken down, that's actually a very sort of simple concept. So the f-stop broken down simply is like how blurry your background is and like how bright the shot will be.
Basically.
And your shutter speed is very important for video, because the lower your shutter speed is, the blurrier the shot is. It's the same for photos as well. But it's particularly very important for video, because if you shoot at lower frame rate, everything will look very blurry and dreamy, and like the ISO is very simple. It's just how sensitive your camera is to light, so it's pretty much lightening or darkening the picture. Like, it took me ages to perfect this, like on a manual camera, but I think with phones, and especially like new apps and stuff, it's become quite easy. And most cameras have automatic modes if you don't feel comfortable like jumping into this all in. And if you're just starting out, I think automatic, like your camera app on your phone or setting your camera to automatic is a great way as well to.
Definitely.
How long did it take you to master?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, some of it's counterintuitive, some of it's kind of hard to grasp a bit as well. It's that exposure triangle piece.
Yeah. Which I still don't know, but sure.
Yes, I know, but yeah, basically, I think this picture illustrates it well. It's kind of the f-stop is how blurry the background is, and the smaller the number, the brighter your image, and the blurrier your background.
No, definitely, yeah. all these slides will be available along with a worksheet for anyone who's interested and wants to go into more detail. It's just because like you can only put so much information in a slide, like so.
I might just hold us there for a couple of minutes, just we seem to be having some technical issues with the sound.
Sure.
So I might just hold us there for really quickly, and we'll be back in like 5 minutes, promise. Lovely. 1, 2.
Are we all good? Very low.
The joys of... Oh dear.
No.
Oh, right. I was like,
I saw Heather going, can you hear them? And I went, there's nothing on this screen.
Yeah.
oh, sorry. It's only going in one side now.
Sorry, folks. 1 minute. We're just this is live, you know.
Yeah.
Technical difficulties, you know, all that good stuff.
As you do.
As you do. My computer's decided to shut down as well. This is amazing. Oh, I love this. So good. This is us like talking about you know, make a movie, making videos, so good at our jobs. So good, and then we can't even point a camera at ourselves and talk to it. It's so good.
Oh, I love life.
This is great. Okay, I hope you can possibly hear us now.
Yeah, hopefully we're back on track. Yeah. So before we just ran into a bit of difficulties, we were just talking about the camera settings, and we were just about to go into framing of your shots, which is extremely important when filming, because odd framing of a shot will just make your shot like unwatchable, in my opinion. So here's a good example of like the rule of thirds. That's the go-to rule for most videographers when they're filming anything, whether that be again a vlog or a high budget cinema film. The principles stay the same. With the rule of thirds, the principle is to put your subject of interest in one of these 4 points usually. So if you're doing a close-up shot, you might have the eyes here. It again comes down to interpretation. Some people break those rules on purpose. I'm not sure about, like, there's some directors that do that on purpose. I'm not sure which one's the name at the minute, but I know there's some that break those rules.
Well, Wes Anderson, I mean, would be, so if you look at a movie like The Grand Budapest Hotel, that's all center framed, like it's all bang in the middle. Everything is nothing, like it's not this at all. Some directors, there's another thing called like the golden spiral, which is, you know, you kind of, it's how like Renaissance paintings are kind of, you can link them to that, I guess. But it's a great general rule. It's a great general rule. I mean, if we're switching to our lovely camera 2 here on Devadas, you can see that generally he's hitting the top, his eyes are hitting the top right of the rule of thirds, like the top right point on which we're talking about in the slide here. And well, not similarly in this shot because we're putting it in the screen, but if we were to lower that camera down, you might see that my face would hit at this point up here, and Devadas would hit this point up here. So it's a good rule of thirds. You'll see it once you know it. Once you know about it, you'll see it. So you'll see it everywhere, and you get sick of it. But it's a great way of framing video and photographs as well. Kind of putting things a little bit off center, and it's what pops up on your iPhone. If you turn grid on your iPhone in the settings on your camera or your smartphone, this is what it is, rule of thirds. So yeah, it's kind of widely accepted.
Yeah. That also brings us into the framing of shots. So we're not going to go into very much detail with this first webinar because it is quite a basic webinar. There is a lot of variations of these 4 principles, but these would be the general ones. So it would be the wide shot, which would encompass a lot of the frame and tell a lot about where you are, what the situation is, whether that be like if you're in a big city or if you're filming a narrative and a character is just walking through a mountain. So then you have your medium shot, which is it's sort of a bit in between, obviously, between a close up and a wide shot. It's you see it a lot. It's one of the most used frames, I think, for interviews, films as well.
Yeah. So for instance, close up
on DevOps, and this would be, I guess this would be a wide shot. Yeah, you'd call this a wide shot. Yeah.
And then, so like the close-up here is usually used to, it connects you more with the character of a film, or if you're shooting an emotional part of a story or a video. The closer the more of the frame that's filled up by a person's face usually, or a particular detail, it draws more attention to it, and you're likely to more so receive the message. And then you have your cutaways, which are like detail shots. So you see them encompassed a lot in vlogs, really, in the new age vlogs, you know, where they have all the cool B-roll transitions and stuff, filming all the details. So that sort of brings us into like actually filming on your phone. So when you're filming with your phone, there's some apps that are out there that you can use. You can use obviously the one that's in your camera, like in your phone already, but it's quite basic, and it doesn't encompass a lot of the manual stuff that we talked about before. There is an app called Filmic Pro, which it's a premium app. You have to buy it, but the amount of detail you can get out of it and the amount of freedom that you can get out of it filming with your phone is like absolutely amazing. Like it is a bit dear for an app. It's €17 I think on the App Store at the minute. 16,
is it 17?
$16.99.
I bought it for a tenner when I got it.
Back in the good old days. But I feel as though if you're taking your video seriously, and if you're filming a lot and you want to get into it a lot more, it's something. You look at it as an investment, because your quality of videos and the quality of the content you put out is going to be just much greater. Because you have like every bit of control that you want. You can customize like your frame rates, the resolution, like just absolutely everything.
Bit rate, if you're into that sort of thing.
But
that's
bitrate, we'll just give a brief rundown because it's a bit of jargon, to be honest.
Bitrate is how compressed your video is. If you see some videos sometimes on Facebook especially, not to diss Facebook or anything, but they're very grainy, and there's little like artifacts in the video, and especially in the background if there's blurry bits. So bitrate kind of is about how it kind of affects your file size a lot. So it's how much data it's capturing per frame or per second, and obviously the higher the bitrate, the more data you're collecting. So your iPhones, if you open up your phone's camera and click on video, it's locked to a certain bitrate. Whereas with Filmic Pro, you'll have your phone standard, but then you can push it a bit, and it allows you to capture more data, which in turn will kind of give you a bit higher quality video. It's one of those things that it's kind of overlooked a little bit, but it'll make a difference in the more detailed shots, I guess, or if you're kind of pushing it to a bigger screen like this, for instance. But it won't make much of a difference if you're uploading it to, say, Facebook or even YouTube.
Even YouTube. Any of the social media platforms, they compress the absolute crap out of videos.
But the reason to get it would be that you have that customization around frame rates, around color especially as well. It allows you kind of get that flatter color as well, so you can, the iPhone's very saturated, it's very poppy, whereas sometimes you don't really want that, and that's harder to take out of it. And it just allows you that bit more customization, and that much more flexibility in your filming.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like starting out initially, like getting to, like, before you buy any of these apps or you try to like learn bitrate, like it's important to start at the basics and just try and get the hang of all the small niggly bits. Just like going back to the first webinar, I think it's really important to have a good idea with your video to start. And then once you have a good idea, you can sort of build on that. Like it doesn't have to be perfect what you film, because realistically, some content or a video with some sort of knowledge or insight is better than no video.
Exactly.
Like a great idea, but like no execution.
Ideas are easy. Execution is.
There you go. Yeah.
We didn't say that in the last one because we didn't want to make it sound like ideas are easy, but ideas are easy.
Getting an idea, even realizing the idea is sort of the difficult part. Like writing it, like it's like, oh my god, I have an amazing video for idea for a film, but like writing the script, doing the storyboards, figuring out what you'll need, what budget you'll need. That's That's the difficult part.
Yes,
That's like
yeah.
the idea. I suppose that brings us into sound. Sound is also a very important part of a video. I would argue
Yeah.
it's more important than framing or
Yeah.
bitrate or anything.
Which is why it's kind of annoying that our sound is out of sync. And I know, I'm aware, I'm sorry. We'll fix it. We've gotten, we were fortunate enough to get a bit of new equipment here in SpunOut recently. So we're just kind of, this is our first time using it. You may notice that the cameras are lovely and high quality, but unfortunately the sound is out of sync. So that's a problem we have to fix, but we'll try to get it fixed for the next one. Hopefully you'll put up with it.
Yeah, hopefully it's not too bad. But yeah, sound is very, very important for like filming any sort of a video, like I would say, especially if you're filming with a phone or a DSLR camera or just any sort of camera in general, because the inboard mics, like the actual mics on the phone, they're not the best quality, like and like I don't know, I think it's there was a study done that the thing that pushes people away from a video the most, like it could be filmed amazingly, but if the audio is terrible, they won't watch it. But if it's filmed terribly but the audio is great and the audio engineering is great, they're more likely to keep watching.
Yeah, and I think that's really relatable. I mean, if you think about, you open up a video on YouTube and the image is impeccable. It's 4K. It's crisp, but the sound is awful. Like you're probably going to click away from it. But if you're looking at a video and you might be filmed on a brick from 2002, but if the sound is lovely, you're probably going to put up with it a bit longer if you really wanted to watch it. Same goes for podcasts. And it's kind of more relatable as well. I know Blind Boy on his podcast talks about the podcast hug a lot. And he's talking about how, like, you know, close, and he has his mic nice and close to his mouth. There's no echo, there's no reverb. It's like you're just listening to it, whereas you're listening to us here now, you might, because it's on this mic here at the minute. So you're probably hearing a bit of room noise, a bit of echo, and it just makes it a little bit less professional, and it's much because say if we were using the microphone on this camera here, you know, it would be very echoey because you're hearing everything in this room here. Whereas if I had a lapel mic on, it was right here, all you're going to hear is my voice.
Yeah, that also brings us nicely into like the types of microphones that are out there for and what the uses are for each of them. So these are like this is like a nice little collection of microphones that you might see used day to day. These would be like the main ones. So that would be like a wireless lapel mic, so you can sort of see the lapel here. So those would be used mostly for interviews or anything where the mic has to be hidden well, and you need really high quality audio from someone speaking.
Yeah, I'll show you. We had them on, but it was out of sync.
I can actually show you two now.
Do you want to zoom in on that, Heather? There's a lapel. And it plugs straight into what might be
either a wireless transmitter, or these ones we have here are actually able to connect straight to a phone, so it's a much cheaper solution than buying those because those are actually quite dear. But if you're filming something lower budget, you can record directly into your phone and you still have the same great audio quality, except you don't need the really expensive piece of wireless transmitter machining thingy.
And then if you just it's less handy, I guess, if you're using your phone, but it still works. You can get an extension lead, you know, if you're getting like a little AUX cable or something like that. But you can record straight into your phone at the same time as recording video.
It's handy. It's very handy. That would be more of like an all general purpose sort of microphone. I don't have one handy here, but it's used for really run and gun sort of stuff, documentary filming a lot.
Fits on top of your camera. Generally called shotgun microphones.
Don't worry, they don't shoot you.
There you go. They're called shotgun microphones, and they can come anywhere from 50 quid to thousands of euros.
It depends on how, like, the very high end stuff is in the thousands. It's very expensive. But it doesn't have to be. There is much cheaper alternatives around for someone who's just starting out or who doesn't want to invest a whole lot because they're not sure if it's something they want to pursue. And then these mics are great for all sorts of filming. That's it. I think this particular mic is called Video Mic Go. It's made by a company called Rode. I actually started off
sponsor.
I know. It's like, don't worry then. These are affiliate.
They're not sponsored. We're not sponsored.
these very small, like there's many brands that have started to make them, but they're sort of the proprietor of this. They're very, very cheap, but they also give great audio quality, and like if something does happen to them, unfortunately, it's not the end of the world. Whereas even like any of these other mics, it's like sort of a bit of a pain.
I actually own 3 of the mics on that screen.
Yeah, I know. For me, it's same here. Like
they're a great brand. They're a great brand.
Yeah. Not affiliated.
What type of microphone would you recommend for someone starting out making a video? Which one of those is like the best?
I suppose it really depends on the sort of video that you want to make. If you're making a vlog, I feel like a lapel mic would be.
I feel like the shotgun mic.
Yeah. No, honestly, I think a shotgun mic or those. Do you know the newest mics where they plug directly into your phone if it has an audio jack?
Yeah.
So it directly points at you. I think it's called a Video Mic Me. So I don't have a picture of it, but it's pretty much like this, but it plugs into your phone straight. Like,
I mean, the summary is it doesn't have to be a Rode microphone. It doesn't have to. No. Anything is better than your phone's built-in microphone. Yeah. Genuinely, that's the takeaway point. And I mean, or your camera or your DSLR if you have a built-in microphone. Another trick might be if you were filming some sort of interview, like with one camera angle, if you had a DSLR, if you had a second phone and you're using that, or you're using your main phone to film, stick the phone in between you and the person. Put it on the table. That's going to get way better audio because it's much closer to them than the camera might be. You're going to get that big echo, which is, I mean, what we're doing here. So we have our little Zoom as an emergency. We've stuck it right in between us. That's an idea as well. Or use a friend's phone, and put it on voice recorder and sync it up later in an editing program if that's how you're going. Or there's the ones that plug into the bottom of your phone as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of choices out there, but it just comes down to the fact that the closer you bring a microphone, the better it's going to sound. That's why podcast microphones, you're like right up in your face.
Exactly, yeah.
And it also comes down to the fact that the smaller the microphone, the more tinny it's going to sound. It sort of doesn't really have like the full bass range, and it just doesn't sound great.
We also got another question about filming in a small space.
Filming in a small space.
In terms of echo, I would assume. I guess that's harder to combat. I mean, we're actually filming in quite a small space here, and you might hear the echo a bit. I guess it's all about how close you can get the microphone to. Yeah,
like getting the microphone as close as possible to you, and like hopefully out of frame is ideal. But like if it has to be in the frame for better audio quality, then I would make that.
I wouldn't mind that at all. I don't think as a viewer you kind of, I think years and years ago they used to try and hide equipment so much, but now you're kind of used to seeing film equipment in the shot.
Like I think with like the fact that like podcasts have come out and they're like videos as well, so you see all the equipment out, like you can't hide it. So
other than that, you can treat your room with and spend hundreds of euros on acoustic material and.
A cheaper option to that would be if you have your blankets. So if you put those on a wall, whether that be with tape or I think Blue Tack probably won't hold it, but
no.
The softer the material, they usually like the faster, like the more sound it will absorb. So there's none of that echo coming from a room. So if you can steal all your family's blankets or whoever's in the house blankets, and stick them all over your walls when you're filming.
That's another good tip as well if you're doing voiceover work, or recording something that's not necessarily being filmed. But get your phone or get whatever mic, throw the duvet over your head and record in under it. I've done that before, and it's really nice and dead and clean, and it'll sound like a studio. I've done professional level video work with voiceovers recorded on an iPhone under a duvet, and no one told the difference, so I don't care. If it sounds good to them, that's all that matters,
There's so many resources out there on YouTube, especially on like how to soundproof your room or how to improve your room's noise. Like I saw one tutorial where they just put a bunch of like towels in a canvas sheet and they put it up against the wall. That's a great option as well.
Egg cartons I've seen.
Egg cartons are like like if you've ever seen like in a studio like the black sort of triangle looking stuff stuck on the walls.
Yeah.
The egg cartons are just like a very cheap alternative to that, and they have the same idea, same principle.
Yeah.
Not
You
as
just need a
effective.
lot of them.
Yeah, so you gotta have a high protein diet with a lot of eggs.
Yeah, 4 eggs every morning. You get your sound sounding crisp.
Yeah. So like we've covered most of this. Like the only one we haven't really covered is the boom microphone.
Oh yeah.
You'll only really encounter those in a more high sort of high budget.
Yeah, it's basically
scenario.
the shotgun microphone on a long boom, and you have a boom operator that's holding them. I'm sure you'll have seen them in behind the scenes things, but that's essentially what it is. That's everything in Hollywood, because it's you can adjust it on the go. You have absolute control.
Yeah, if you ever watch any sort of reality show, you can usually see them there.
Yeah, exactly.
Being really awkward and annoying and getting in the frame.
Sticking it down. You see the joke ones where they hit him on the head and stuff like that. That's a boom microphone.
Yeah. So that brings us into lighting. While our audio might be not the best quality at the minute, at least I can say that our lighting looks quite nice.
Yeah,
at
that's
least
good.
to me.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Small wins. So lighting is a big part as well of video. So I like realistically, lighting and audio are the two main parts of making a video look nice and sound good.
Yeah.
So let's I'd say go straight into the different types of lighting.
Yeah.
For a budget scenario, windows are your best friend.
Big time.
Yeah. So if you're ever like stuck somewhere, your room is probably a great example, because every bedroom usually has a nice window. So if you can position yourself beside a window when you're filming, it's a great way to get nice even lighting on your face. You can actually see it here, the difference between, she's sort of resting against the light, so you can see a lot more shadow, and it just doesn't look as pleasant, unless it's what you're looking for. If you're filming a narrative and you want to make someone look a bit more evil, then you usually point them against the light.
It actually looks to me that they have a reflector in that photograph as well.
Yeah, for this one, what's happened is they've placed her against the light, and then on the other side they have a reflector, which is pretty much like tinfoil bouncing light back.
Yeah.
Like you see them used a lot in photography and video, and there's actually a really cheap alternative to that, is just sticking some tinfoil on a cardboard sheet
of paper either.
Yeah, sheet of paper is even better, because it gets smaller and more maneuverable, and you can shape it how you want. I've done that so many times.
Yeah.
Even when you're on set and someone like forgets a reflector, like, you know what, just get some cardboard and get some tinfoil.
Yeah, big time.
Because you won't tell the difference. It's not in the frame, and as long as it gets the job done, no one really minds.
Yeah, and obviously beyond just like looking nice. I mean, we talked earlier about the aperture and the frame rate and the ISO. Now, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to open up your f-stop all the way on your camera to the widest it could possibly let enough light. You're throwing down your shutter speed as low as possible, and it's still dark, say. And then what happens is you boost up that ISO, making it brighter and brighter, and it's making it noisier and noisier and noisier and grainier and grainier. So the more light you can kind of fill in, the nicer your actual footage is going to look as well. Yeah, definitely. Like the more light, the better is usually like the way to go. The mantra. Except if you're filming outside at noon. I feel that's a right. So that brings us nicely into filming outside. If you ever want to film something outside, the rule is usually to stick to early mornings, late evenings, if you want the nicest light, which is usually called golden hour. That's golden hours, that's the term for it. Like, you can see it here. So like sunset and sunrise have, like, if you've ever seen, like, obviously most of you have seen the sunset and the sunrise. What? So the light gets much more orange and much more pleasant to the eye during the evenings, especially. Yeah, it also gets directional, which is the main thing. Yeah. In noon, you have light coming down from overhead. You're gonna cast. If you think about it, if you're casting, your face is casting shadows, so it's gonna cast a shadow over your eyes. It's gonna cast a shadow downwards like this. It's not actually a light coming down onto your face. It's actually coming on top of your head. Yeah. So if you have a light that's kind of coming towards you, it's a lot more brighter, and you'll get a lot more mood out of it. You get a lot more use out of it, I suppose. And as well, it gets nice and pleasant. It gets nice and soft. It's not really harsh. Yeah, no, it's like, if you can ever, like, film something outside, try to do it at those hours. And the reason it's the hour is that, it's the hour before it gets too dark to film, but it's the battle between being too dark to film and being too harsh or too high in the sky a little bit. Yeah.
Like again, you can always break like these are rules. So once you learn them, it's like, you know, everyone ends up breaking them sooner or later. Either that's because like the conditions are like you have to get something done there and then, or if it's you want to break it on purpose because you want to get like you want a character to have shadows under the eyes because they're, you know.
Yeah. But again, that's an ideal situation as well. And maybe you just want the bright outdoors. Sometimes that doesn't matter, but like if you're trying to get a specific kind of shot, that's something to think about.
Yeah, and as well, if you are stuck outside shooting at noon or around those hours when the sun is high up in the sky, try to look for shade. Mm-hmm. Shade is usually a great compromise. So if you can like stick yourself under a tree if you're near like trees, or in the shadow of a building, that's usually it's a bit darker, but the light is a bit more even on the skin, and it looks a bit more pleasant. Like there is a lot of nuances when it comes to light. Like room lights are very, I wouldn't say bad like necessarily the whole time, but they're not very pleasant on the eye, mostly because it comes back to the principle of if a light is shining at your head, it's gonna have like you're gonna have these fairly bad shadows. It's gonna look like you haven't slept in 3 days, and you're gonna see every little crinkle in your skin, so it's just not going to make you look pleasant.
Yeah, I look like that anyway, but
so do I. Like you can use, like you don't have to buy lighting equipment necessarily, because I know sometimes, like especially in the winter months, it's very hard to like film something because you're almost never have the light. So a good compromise is instead of having overhead lights of say your room or like a kitchen or something, try and get table lamps, especially if they're directional, and use them as a bit of a compromise. So if you take a just regular desk lamp, put a sheet of A4 paper in front of it, it'll soften light, so it's not going to be very harsh in your face, and also be quite pleasant.
Baking paper also works.
Baking paper works.
Or even just a thin cloth. You can. I mean, if there was something you'd invest in, it's very cheap, is the actual muslin diffusion cloth. It's like a $5 for 2 meters square or something like that, and you'll pick it up anywhere really on Amazon or any camera shop really should stock some as well. So that's something, and it'll soften it out. It'll make it like not harsh. Instead of a torch casting shadows, it's lovely and soft. It's like the shadows will just fall away nicely. It's a subtle difference, but the camera picks it up a lot.
Oh, it does definitely. So on the other side of that as well, we have worst comes to worst, you can use a second phone as a light.
I've done that as well.
Like if you're stuck, and it's some light is better than no light. So
I've done that sometimes to supplement window light. To fill it in, because a lot of the time it's that little glint in the eye. It's the little,
you're missing a little shine.
The little shine in the eye, the little the thing that kind of makes it come alive. Especially if you're shooting with window light, you have a large kind of big frame. It's just to get that little bit of something. But you got to be very careful with the iPhone light, is that it doesn't cast some weird looking shadows, because it's quite harsh. And it's not ideal for like, it's not bright enough to light a whole scene either, obviously, unless you had like 20 iPhones.
Like it's ideal for run and gun if you're like terribly stuck or if you're filming. And as well as that, like try to move the smaller the light, try to move it further away from like the subject that you want to light up, because the closer you are, the harsher the actual light gets in the shadows that it casts. So you see it a lot with smaller lights. Like if you take your phone, say for example, and you flash it, like put the flash on and shine it on something small, the closer you get, the crisper the shadows get, and it almost looks like a clear outline. But the further you get away, the shadow sort of tends to disappear. In the process, you will lose some light, but it does help mitigate some like the shadows and the negative aspects of a small light.
And that's another thing with the Filmic Pro app as well, is that it allows you to actually turn on the torch as you're filming, which the iPhone camera or I don't know about Android because I'm just kind of an Apple guy, but I don't know if it does it, but I know on the iPhone you can't turn on the light as you're filming manually.
No, the iPhone app is quite restrictive. But it can be a good so if you're I think there's some apps on Android that allow you to light up the front screen as well if you're filming so it doesn't turn it completely white. Like if you ever use Snapchat and you film a video with the flash on,
it does do it, doesn't it?
Yeah, so it brightens up the screen so you have a bit more light.
Yeah.
It's not as bright as like the torch, but if you're stuck and you're filming, say, a front forward facing thing like a little speech, or you know, it's a good thing to have as well. Do we have any questions? Like, if there's any questions on any topic really in regards to filmmaking, whether that be like the idea stages or even some like post-production stages, like we're not gonna go into full detail, but if someone has a particular question, we're more than happy to answer anyone. So, because if we don't get questions, we're probably gonna end up just summarizing everything and going into some
we
detail.
can move on to that if you want. Any? Yes.
For the background, you were talking about like having some props and stuff there.
Yeah.
Are there good places that you can buy like cheap things to put at the back? Like charity shops and things like that?
Okay, so the question was, in case you didn't hear, is about good places to buy props for your set designer and like that. I mean, okay, so one of the easiest things to kind of think about is fairy lights. So Ally uses them very well, and they just provide that like nice out of focus little balls of light. Charity shops, great shout. Books work. If you have any little props like that, we've our SpunOut dude here. Christmas decorations, deals, any €2 shop or anything like that. It depends really what you want to put in stuff. I mean, if you could put in anything at all. If you play an instrument, put it in the background. It's a nice thing to look at, even if you've nothing to do with music. If you have, I don't know, any sort of spare, I don't know, props in your room or a mirror.
Anything that's really interesting. Or, like, realistically, if you're filming in your room and you're setting up your room to film something, you do really want it to be an extension of you, because your personality is unique, so you want to portray that across to someone that's watching the video, because you don't want to just have a white background with nothing in it, because it doesn't separate you from someone else. But if you have your passion, so if you play music and you have your musical instruments, if you're a tech person, and then you have like your techie stuff, like all tech YouTubers do it, like MKBHD and YouTubers. If
you're a tech person, just aim the camera and as you're sitting at your computer and show your computer in the screen. Like it's kind of just thinking about what's unique to you, but also it can sometimes be a really small thing. It doesn't have to be like a big massive set design. It can just be one little object or one or two little objects. Another thing about, if you're filming in front of a window, putting that table lamp in the background, a little practical light, can make a little bit of difference as well. Just as a little feature, something that draws the eye now and again. It's kind of the summary of it, similar to the sound piece about anything's better than the microphone in your camera or in your iPhone. Anything's better than the blank wall.
Definitely. Whether that be wallpaper, like if you have one like the rooms in your house, with some wallpaper, and that can be like an easy go-to. Filming against a window, even if you have like a nice, interesting backdrop, like if you live in an apartment that's like near, say, the city centre of Dublin, then you can sort of have the city in the background. If you're filming out in the country and your window sort of portrays more so the country fields, that can be a nice background as well. It's just if you're filming, you have to be careful. If you're sitting like against a window and you're filming against a window, you just have to try and get some sort of light, or bounce some sort of light, like a cardboard and some tin foil or something.
Because it'll end up darker.
It'll end up like a silhouette then, like if you like, I'm sure everyone's seen the shots of movies as well, where they just there's a very strong light coming in like on the other side of the camera, so it just outlines the person, so you end up having that with your video as well. And your iPhone, the regular iPhone camera will just adjust itself to the window light. It won't just blow the window out and light you. It's just how it's designed. Exactly. And you do get that bit more control on the Filmic one as well. You could do that on the Filmic one, in the Filmic Pro app. Exactly. So I think it's a good stage to just go into what we'll be sort of talking about in the next podcast.
Podcast. That's kind of a podcast.
I gave away my secret. Well, like audio, we failed on that part anyway. So in the third series, and like the final part of our trilogy for this part, we'll be talking about the post-production. So we'll be talking a lot more about the app Filmic Pro and some other free alternatives for people who don't necessarily want to spend €17 on an app. Because I don't
feel comfortable
No,
spending
no.
€17.
Yeah, well, it's 17. Look, if you're into it, it's €17. It's €17. It's €17. But
Yeah, it's an investment. Like for me, it's not as much of a requirement because like I edit on computer software. But for someone who just has their phone, it's a great alternative to like software like Adobe Premiere Pro or like Sony Vegas or any of those. We'll be going into a lot of detail about more so the colouring and like added sound effects, like to come back to sound and lighting.
Yeah.
So the way your shot looks as well, sort of, because you can reframe some stuff afterwards. You can crop in on shots and you can get different details. So we'll be covering all of that fun stuff in the next webinar. We're not too sure on the date of that yet, but it'll be after New Year's.
Yeah.
And,
yes, definitely well, after New Year's.
I mean, I'm sure we can wing it again. Those dates will be sent out to anyone who's registered by email. For anyone who's interested.
Yeah.
As well as that, with this webinar, I'll have a little worksheet and I'll have a more detailed summary of what's happened, like what we've talked about today, just to send out to you guys if anyone wants to just have another read over it and just have a look back. And as well as that, I'll include some links to some external channels that are great resources, like DSLR Guide for like film and stuff, and Peter McKinnon is another one. There's a lot of these YouTubers that have come up in the past few years that teach a lot about filmmaking. It's how I learned a lot of stuff about filmmaking myself, and I feel it's like a great resource for anyone who's looking to get into any part of filmmaking, whether that be vlogs or making a full-blown Avengers movie.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that is sent out to you guys as well. And yeah, if we don't have any more questions, really, I feel like we can bring this podcast to a close.
Yes. Yeah, and listen, look, thanks everyone for joining us. We will be back again. Heather will let you know on details on the next one. If you would like to see anything specific covered, please let us know. Please let Heather know. If you have any comments or suggestions on how we can do better, bar the sound, don't dare say a word about that. And yeah, look, thanks for joining us. Thanks for volunteering for SpunOut. It's an important point to mention. We do these for you guys. So I mean that's important, and thank you for all the great pieces and stuff that you've written this year. It's been a great year for us, and it's been really great to have Heather like increasing that and getting you all engaged and stuff like that. And so yeah, thanks very much. See you in 2019. Whoop. We finish up here on Friday as well, so it's kind of a wrapping up here for the year as well. Look, thanks very much, and thanks for joining us. See you in the next one.
See you in the next one.